We're going to talk about graphing in point slope form. So far, guys, we have talked about standard form and we have talked about slope intercept form. When we did slope intercept form, we already learned that slope was called m. And remember that formula was y equals mx plus b. So we learned that our slope was m. Today, it's still going to be m. We're going to have point slope form. And here you can see it is right in front of the parentheses on the right-hand side of my equation. Now, the other thing that we're going to have in this equation is going to be a point. We're calling it x1, y1. The y1 will be on the left side and the x1 is going to be on the right side. I do want you guys to notice that in this equation, unlike y equals mx plus b, this equation has minuses. So whatever our x and y is, we're actually subtracting them from the x and the y in the equation. So let's go ahead and go look at our first example. We have this equation, y minus 1 equals 3 over 2 x plus 4. Now to help us, I'm going to write the equation above again. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Okay, so our point, the first part, that is our x, y, specifically x1, y1. Well, when you go look in the equation, and I've highlighted it for you, my x I have in yellow, my y I have in green. Okay, well, look at my x. It says x plus 4. Okay, well, I'm supposed to have a minus there. So I want you to think about basically this looks opposite. Since I see a positive 4, really, that means x is negative 4. Because if it was a positive 4, I would see x minus 4. Since I see a I see a plus 4, x is really the opposite of that. It is negative 4. On the other side of the equation, I have y minus 1. So that follows the format of my equation, y minus, so I have a positive 1 for a y. My point is negative 4, positive 1. So go back again and look at it. It looks like x is positive 4, but in reality, it's opposite of that, negative 4. And it looks like your y is negative 1, but in reality, that is a minus in the equation, so y really is a positive 1. So when you're looking at point slope, everything looks opposite of what it really is. Now, what is my slope? That's the easy part. That is your multiplier. What do you have right in front of the parentheses? And it is 3 over 2. Now, how do I use this? Super easy. Go in the order that you see it in the equation. I'm going to go graph the point. So the point that I'm going to graph is negative 4, positive 1. So I'm going to come over to the x-axis and go find my negative 4. And then I'm going to go up 1. If you're not sure how to graph, remember you can always go check this in Desmos. There's your first point. Negative 4, positive 1. And then, just like any other time, remember when we did slope intercept, we always graph the y-intercept first. We don't have that. We have a point instead. But now that I know what my first point is, I can go take my slope, and I can go up 3, right 2, and graph my next point. So up 3, 1, 2, 3, right 2, right 2. Here is my next point. And once I have 2 points, I can connect them and make my straight line. So I have point slope form, okay? Let's go look at my second example. We're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to look at the equation for point slope form. Remember, it is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Remember, our focus is going to be on our x1 and our y1. And then we're also going to be finding our slope. So what is my point? Well, it's x1, y1. So I'm going to go look at my x1, and remember, I'd look at the minus as well. And remember, everything's opposite when it's point slope. because the formula has a minus in it. So really that is a positive x. So that is a positive 1. On the other side, that's really supposed to be a minus in the equation. So since it's not, since I see a plus 3, that tells me that really I was subtracting a negative 3. My y is negative 3. That is my first point, guys. And then my slope is easy. It's negative 4. Now remember, we need a plan before we go graphing this. So when you have a slope, remember you always need a top and a bottom. So if you get a whole number or an integer, put a 1 on the bottom of it. And then think about what that means. Negative 4 means I'm going down 4 and right 1. So I'm going to go graph my first point. That was the point that I was given in the equation. I was given 1, negative 3. There is my first point at 1, negative 3. Okay. Now I'm going to go try to graph another point. When I look at this point, if I try to go down 4, can you do that? Looks like I've only got 1, 2, 3 spots left on the graph. I'm going to end up off the graph. So that won't work. I can't use my slope of negative 4 over 1 and graph down and right. So instead, we're going to go the opposite direction. So instead of going down 4, what's the opposite of going down 4? I'm going to go up 4. And instead of going right 1, what's the opposite? I'm going to go left 1. So I'm going to go graph backwards. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, left 1. There's a point. 1, 2, 3, 4, left 1. There's another point. And I'm going to connect my 3 points. Make a semi-straight line there. Okay? There is my graph from point slope form. So remember, when you've got point slope form, you're going to go pull out these 3 things. Go pull out your x and your y. Remember, because there's minuses in the equation, the x and the y are actually opposite of the way they look in the equation. And then you're going to pull out your slope, m. You'll graph the point you were given, and then you will use slope, rise over run, to graph a second and third point until you generate a straight line.